Nobody knows you're here. No notifications, no group chat, no one waiting for you to make a move or respond or perform. Just you, a screen and a world that exists entirely on your terms. And somewhere in that silence, real silence, chosen silence, something in you unclenches. The world has a word for what you're doing right now. It calls it being alone. But here's the strange thing. You don't feel lonely at all. That's what we're exploring today. The modern world treats solitude and loneliness as the same thing. They are not. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted disconnection. It is the feeling of reaching for something, understanding, presence, belonging, and finding nothing there. It is involuntary. It arrives uninvited and leaves a specific kind of hollow behind. Solitude is something else entirely. Solitude is chosen. It is the deliberate decision to be with yourself, fully, without distraction, without the performance that social life always asks of you. And far from being a deficit, decades of psychological research now confirm what philosophers have known for centuries. Solitude, practiced intentionally, is one of the most restorative states a human being can occupy. The difference between the two isn't about other people. It's about agency. And in a single-player game, that agency is absolute. You decided to be here. You chose this world. You are building something that belongs entirely to you, shaped by your decisions, reflecting your priorities, moving at your pace. There is no one to negotiate with, no one to disappoint, no one waiting for you to be something different from what you are. For a few hours, you simply are what you are, and that, it turns out, is not a small thing. Think about the last time you were genuinely, completely yourself. Not performing, not adjusting, not reading the room and calibrating your behavior to match what the situation seemed to require. Just you, present, unobserved, moving through the world at your own pace, guided by your own curiosity, accountable to no one. For most adults, especially after 40, those moments are rarer than they should be. We are social creatures, and social life is relentless. Every room we enter comes with an invisible checklist: how to appear, how to respond, how to occupy exactly the right amount of space. Over time, that calibration becomes so automatic that we stop noticing it. We forget what it feels like to simply be, without the performance layer running underneath. Single-player games remove that layer entirely. There is no audience in a solo game, no one to impress with your choices, no one watching the decisions you make at midnight. Alone with a growing city and a problem you've been turning over in your mind for 20 minutes. The game doesn't care how you look while you're thinking. It doesn't require you to explain yourself. It simply responds to what you do. And there's something deeply, quietly freeing about a world that only asks for your genuine best. Not your performed best, not your visible best, but the actual quality of your thinking and your patience and your attention. Here's the thing. After 40, most people have spent decades being observed, evaluated, compared. The relief of a world that simply doesn't do that, that takes you entirely on your own terms, isn't trivial. It's restorative in a way that social gaming, for all its pleasures, almost never is. The world doesn't trust this. It watches a person sitting alone with a game and reaches for a diagnosis. Isolation, withdrawal, avoidance. And it's worth asking, clearly without defensiveness, whether that's actually what's happening. The image of the lonely gamer is one of the most persistent and most inaccurate ideas in popular culture. It was formed in a specific era, when gaming was new, when it was poorly understood, and when sitting alone with a screen was read as a failure to engage with the world, a retreat, a symptom of something missing. But research has consistently failed to support that image. What it has found instead is more interesting. People who regularly engage in solo creative or constructive activities, including gaming, tend to score higher on measures of self-knowledge, emotional regulation, and what psychologists call reflective functioning. The ability to understand your own internal states and the internal states of others. In other words, the hours you spend alone in a world you built yourself are not hours spent away from the human experience. They are hours spent inside it, deeply. What if we treated real life the same way? What if the ability to be comfortable alone, genuinely, peacefully, without restlessness or the compulsive reach for distraction, was understood as a skill, one that takes years to develop, one that most people never fully acquire, one that the person sitting quietly with a single-player game at the end of a long week has, perhaps without ever naming it, been quietly practicing all along. Solitude is a capacity, and like most capacities, the older version of you has more of it than the younger one did. At 20, being alone often felt like something was wrong. At 40, it begins to feel like something is right. And that's fine. If this is landing somewhere, if you've ever defended your solo gaming hours to someone who didn't quite understand, subscribe to the channel. This is the space for exactly these conversations, and we take our time with them. Here's what the research on solitude consistently finds. People who spend regular, intentional time alone, not isolated, not avoiding life, but genuinely choosing to be with themselves, develop a specific set of qualities that social time alone cannot build. They become better at knowing what they actually think, as opposed to what the group thinks. They develop a clearer sense of their own values, the things they would choose when no one is watching. They become more comfortable with uncertainty because they've learned to sit with their own thoughts without immediately reaching for noise to cover them. Now here's where it gets really interesting. These are exactly the qualities that deepen after 40. Because by 40, most people have had enough social experience to understand its limitations. You know what it costs to be constantly available. You know the exhaustion of maintaining the performance layer for hours at a time. You know the specific relief of closing a door and being, just for a while, entirely yourself. And you know, even if you've never said it in quite these words, that the version of you that emerges from a long solo session with a game you love is often the version you most want to bring back into the world. Rested, clear, reconnected to something quiet and true in yourself that the noise of the day had temporarily buried. That isn't avoidance. That is maintenance. The kind that keeps you functional, present, and genuinely capable of the social life the world values so highly, precisely because you take the time to step away from it. You cannot give what you haven't replenished, and a single-player game, for many people, is one of the most reliable ways to replenish it. So what are you doing, really, when you sit down alone with a single-player game? You are not hiding. You are not failing to connect. You are practicing one of the most undervalued skills in modern life, the ability to be fully present with yourself, to make decisions without an audience, to build something that reflects your actual values, not the performed version, to exist for a few quiet hours without the weight of being observed. And there's a reason that feels so good. Because it is good. Look at any world you've ever built alone. Really look at it. Every road laid with your own logic. Every problem solved on your own terms. Every hour spent in a state of genuine, undistracted absorption. Not killing time, but living inside it. That wasn't loneliness. That was solitude. The chosen kind. The kind that restores. Games don't just entertain us. They remind us of something we knew as children but slowly forgot. That being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. That the self you find in silence is often the most honest version of the one you carry everywhere else. That a world built by one quiet mind in its own time, without apology, is a world worth building. The chair is there. The lamp is on. The harbor is waiting. Nobody knows you're here, and you are exactly where you need to be. The next time someone asks why you play alone, you don't owe them an explanation. But if you wanted one, it would be this: because some things are only possible in silence. And you've learned, slowly and with great patience, how to find them. See you in the next one.